Hi, my name is Keith Kruger. I'm CEO of COSIN, the nonprofit professional association for heads of technology in our school districts. And I'm really pleased to be here today for AWS's EdStart. And I'm going to try to give some tips for startups of how to understand the education technology market, and particularly our CIO, CTO audience. So I'm going to cover a couple of things. What is the state of EdTech from at least the customer perspective? What's changed in this moment of remote learning and COVID? Is this a permanent kind of pivot or just a blip? And how can you help your customers think about innovation in times of a pandemic? And finally, I'm going to mention that we have a special offer for startups to become involved in COSIN as a member. So no question, this is an unprecedented or pivot moment, a turning point, whatever the terminology you want to talk about. It's definitely a new world. These are tough and uncharted moments for students, for teachers, administrators, parents, the public, and particularly you as startups. So what exactly is your company's vision for learning in the new world? And how are you going to operate in a world that's increasingly virtual or blended? To get some of the answers, I wanted to give you a few of the highlights of our 2020 State of EdTech that COSIN puts out annually. The data from this did come out was collected in January via a survey of IT leaders. And if you go to cosn.org/IT survey, you can see an infographic on the top 10 findings. First of all, there are some good news, and that is that at school, we've made tremendous progress on broadband. Largely all schools are meeting and classrooms are meeting the FCC's short-term broadband goals. And in fact, we're making even more progress on the long-term goal, where just in 1 year, we went from 36% of districts saying they had achieved that faster broadband goal to 49%. We've also seen continued progress in recent years on devices. About 2/3 of middle and high school classrooms were one-to-one environments at school before the pandemic. But of course, things have rapidly changed since March with COVID-19, and clearly many students and teachers at home were not ready for the pandemic. Estimates are that about 11 million students or more, about 7.5 million low-income households that are disproportionately Black and Hispanic were not connected to broadband, and many do not have devices that they can use for learning. And of course, there have been Herculean efforts by school district leaders to bridge that chasm, but I think the bottom line is digital equity is absolutely a priority, and the homework gap is real. And I encourage you to explore the COSIN website, especially our digital equity initiative, to learn more. Cybersecurity is the #1 priority and has been for the last 3 years of our EdTech leaders. That said, they're understaffed and challenged to identify the high risks that there are. But I would encourage you as a provider to be able to answer the questions of how you're adhering to cybersecurity. So what have we learned? Has remote learning been a failure, as the Wall Street Journal and New York Times labeled it? Or are we learning? And if you're a COSIN member, we've been collecting stories about how, in fact, teaching and learning and the enterprise of education can be improved, and I encourage you to explore the COSIN website. We also do an annual resource called Driving K12 Innovation. We thank AWS and the other corporate partners that have helped us make this resource available for free to you and to educational leaders. And I think it begs the question of why would we be thinking about innovation during a pandemic? Some might say we can't afford the distraction, but in fact, COSIN believes that this is a perfect time to be thinking about innovation. So we work with about 100 global experts, not only in the US, but around the globe, to predict sort of what are the major trends that are important around innovation. And we do this in 3 buckets. We actually start with hurdles. What are the things that we're trying to come out with, to overcome in education with technology? And those hurdles, the 5 hurdles you can read about on our website. I will just highlight 2 of the 5. One was around data privacy and ownership, an ever-increasing concern, and also just that evolution of teaching and learning. What is it that we're trying to accomplish with the innovative solutions that you as startups are providing? The second area that we look at are accelerators. And again, these are the things that are happening in the larger context that are driving the innovation in schools. There are 5 trends. I'll just mention 2 of them. One is data-driven practices. How do we use that information, whether it's through AI or other new and innovative applications in education? The other trend that our experts identified this year was social emotional learning, which I find particularly compelling because if anything, the pandemic has shown that the mental health of students and teachers is particularly a concern. And so how does your technology or solution help us address those SEL concerns? And finally, I want to talk about the Tech Enablers Report, which we just released for 2020. And again, there are 5 themes, and I'll highlight 2 of them. But the other themes were analytics and adaptive technologies, cloud infrastructure, a particularly key one for those of you who are AWS partners, and mobile devices, the way that we reach them. But in the report, we focus on 2 trends. One is the digital collaboration platforms. In the pandemic, we've seen that having a way that's easy for students and teachers and parents to do online learning, access their information with sign-ins that are easy and secure is critical. And then the other area is the area of tools for privacy. So you can read all about that in the Driving K12 report at cosin.org/K12 innovation. So I'd really encourage you as an innovative new companies to be starting that conversation. Use these resources to help you have that conversation. Finally, I want to mention that as a startup, if your revenue is under $2 million a year, we have a special offer for your companies, and your entire team can join for just $1,000 a year. And that will get you resources and an online community throughout the year to connect with. We do an annual conference in March. We do throughout the year webinars. We have an online community where you can hear what CTOs are trying to solve. So with that, I'll wrap it up, but have a great day. And if you have any questions, please email me at Keith, Keith, @cosin.org. Have a great day.